Welcome back, guys. Wandering Beast here. Fire season may be over. We're kind of at the end of October here. There are a couple starts in California. We'll see if we get called out. But I'm trying to get the garage, trying to get my life back in kind of the normalcy of outside wildland fire. And one of the things I started this summer with was a review of this tent. And as I'm getting it cleaned up and making sure it's dry and putting it away, potentially till next season or the next family adventure, I want to go over some of the things and give you an overall review, because when I did the initial impression review, I hadn't had a full summer of fire season in it. So I want to talk about what worked, what didn't, and what you can expect. Now, I had a lot of feedback from you guys on this specific brand and tent, telling me everything from this is exactly what I've been looking for to that looks amazing, I just ordered one, etc. And it goes on and on. Go look at the comments in that other video. I'll put kind of a link up here in the cards. But it was a unique brand to me. It was a very unique product for me, and I hands down loved it. It exceeded every expectation. Now, some of the things I said in that earlier review still hold true. I wish this model of the quick pull style tent came in a 2.5 or 3 person version, and that's merely just for me. Even with my wife and I in there, I've got a sleeping pad that fits the 2 person, but you don't have a lot of wiggle room for anything else, putting bags or anything else, unless you're going to put them in the vestibule. Again, as I mentioned, this isn't really a backpack style tent. I think the size and the weight negates it from being a really good backpacking tent. But for festivals, for family camping, for wildland fire, it was phenomenal. You put 4 pegs in the ground, you pull 2 cords, and you are done. As a crew boss, as an engine boss, I always tell my employees that they should always be waiting on me. I've got a lot more paperwork and other things to get done at the beginning and start a fire, whether you're picking up camp every day because you're part of initial attack, whatever it is, keep your stuff vetted and close and easy packable. You got to be quick. You can't spend 20 some minutes putting up this giant tent or asking someone else to put up a tent or help you with the poles. You should really be self-sufficient, and honestly, I was beating everyone out the door with this thing. I don't care if you have the standard government issue little 60-second pop-up or not. This thing folds down and puts up like that. I literally had my tent, my sleeping pad inflating, my sleeping bag out, and my gear bag put in there, and eating dinner, and people were still screwing around with poles and putting tent stakes in with me, even though we all started at the same time. It was great. I don't have any issues with that. I'm going to point out a couple things that ended up breaking or tearing on it. Was no fault of the company or the materials used. It's just how hard that I used this gear, where it was at on top of the fire truck. I'm still not 100% sure how we got that on there, and you're going to see it's not quite as white as it was. It's got a lot of dirt. You know, you've got windstorms, dirt storms, everything else we put this through for fire. Phenomenal. Through light rains anyway, we didn't have any major thunderstorms come over. The fabric and the material held out great. I did notice on the really cold nights I slept a lot warmer. 1, it's only 2 person tent, so I'm not heating up that big space. But 2, I think the dark out fabric as well as the mesh on here, it keeps you a little bit more cocooned, warmed little nook in there just to get you a better night's sleep and not feel quite as cold as the outside temperatures. Now, saying that, my only complaint I had is we had a 14-day run where we're on night shift during those heat waves. They did offer some sleeping trailers. They were not anywhere near camp. They were inconvenient to get to, as well as COVID being shoved into a sleeping trailer with 18 other guys wasn't really the best idea that I wanted to put myself through in a first season California COVID fire. So I opted to try to stay in the tent. There's no shade when you're in the middle of a football field. I've talked about this before. I think the dark out fabric helped a lot. I also think that the mesh they use doesn't allow as much airflow as I would see in a standard backpacking style tent. Now, saying that, I think the mesh on this is maybe a little bit more durable, but I did notice that I got a lot more ventilation when I had the mesh unzipped to try to get any sort of airflow with the fan. Again, during a heat wave, trying to sleep in the afternoon, you're not going to be perfect any way you you do it. I did try to put some extra material over the top, trying to create some shade. If I find some photos, maybe I'll put those in here. But other than that, the tent was phenomenal. The only breakage I had are rips. I think were, I guess they were my fault, but I'm still not sure exactly how I got it. I did pack a small roofing hatchet with a guard on the blade in this as one setup. So when I grabbed the bag, I went to go set it up. I had a hammer to nail the stakes in, and I think that was probably the downfall. Somewhere along the line through a bumpy road, that hatchet, I think, wore the material that was folded over. You'll see it looks like Freddy Krueger sliced it, and I think that's the only thing I can think of that got to it was that hatchet in there. So totally my fault. Again, on top of that, I didn't have time to patch it the entire season. We just ran. We had 90 plus days on the road. I think I had 8 days off all summer. So my feet, my head, whichever way the tent got set up for the next fire, I used it that way. It had the slashes in it. They didn't get bigger. And there's a small hole in the carrying sack. Other than that, I had a phenomenal experience with this tent. I will use it next year. I'm hoping that the company will maybe even come out with a 3-person, as I said, just a little bit bigger. It was pretty cozy with my gear bag and my sleeping pad, but I had enough room. I had enough room to put my boots on inside. That's all you can really ask for. But personally, I would love to see a 3-person version of this. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit bigger, probably a little bit heavier, but phenomenal, guys. Let me give you some close-up shots here. So as I mentioned, you can see, I mean, the white is not as white, and I guess I kind of expected that, and it's not a big deal. I'm not worried about it. Some of this is some dust. I'm brushing it off with kind of a brush that it is coming off. The mesh that I talked about, I do think that this mesh is maybe a little tougher than standard backpacking style mesh, and I think because of that, honestly, I don't think it flows as well. But really, during a heat wave, trying to sleep in the afternoon, as I mentioned, is not ideal for anything. Other than that, I had no issues with that. On nights that I wanted to, I left this open, and I got lots of ventilation in there, and it was fantastic. So there you go. I don't know if you can see that there. There's kind of the Freddy Krueger slashes. They're very irregular. And to the credit of the fabric, it did not elongate or get any bigger when my foot maybe kicked it or my head was up against it for the rest of the fire season. And more than likely that was from just wear and tear of having my hatchet rub marks maybe where it was folded. I think these are maybe folded next to each other, and that's literally it. I'm going to get it patched up before I put it away, and I will not worry about this as the season goes on. The rips happen kind of underneath this end vestibule, so it didn't affect any of the waterproofness whatsoever. The somewhat shallow bathtub, but the material of the floor, I have no rips or holes in it whatsoever from being on rough ground. As you can see, I'm in the process of cleaning it up. It's got a lot of grass and litter and things from me crawling in and out of it all fire season, but no qualms on the sort of material and everything of how it was made. Alright, as filthy as the bag ended up riding on the fire truck all season long, like I said earlier, I did receive one sort of little slash out of the corner. This happened mid-season. I think it got caught on something or one of the fire tools snagged it. I don't even think this was because of the hatchet. I do keep the hatchet and the tent pegs in there, but that's probably my fault. I didn't see any other reason why anything broke. All the clips worked phenomenally, and the bag itself, as I said in the earlier review, I love this giant drop in 30 seconds later and you're on the road kind of billowing bag. I don't know why other companies have not come up with a similar idea, and maybe they have. I've just not seen it. It is phenomenal. Well, there you go, guys. I hope that kind of answers on how the tent held up. I love the quick format of putting it up, tearing it down, being on the road in 2 minutes. Yeah, sometimes I was waiting for other people to get their tents torn down, but I loved the fact that I could get it done. I could put it up when I was dead tired. I just need to set up camp and go to sleep. I was done. 2 minutes. I had my bed up, my backpack up, and I was ready for bed. It was phenomenal. The tears and things that I just showed you, again, product was just being a wildland firefighter, and we're close to sharp tools and rough roads, and we're just rough on stuff. So I have no idea when those damages happened, but I have no worries that they happened because of the roughness of my career. And through family camping and your adventures, I don't think you'd have the same worries of having a plasky go through the bag or get ripped on something while some guy throws your tent off the top of a fire truck onto the ground, even though there's a hatchet inside that probably caused some of that damage. So otherwise, I'm going to keep using the Decathalon tent, and I hope to get a couple others that they have. They have very unique designs, and maybe we can get some family adventures on a little bit bigger scale. Again, Decathalon, if you're watching, we'll love this form factor in a 3-person, but that's just me being spoiled with its an amazing tent. So thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, I'd love to hear them. I'm trying to get back to all your comments now that fire season is winding down, and maybe get back to a regular scheduled program of updating videos and yeah, interacting with you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you down the road.
Thanks for all the love and support. You guys are amazing. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow the adventure on social media, and we'll see you on the road.